Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing is an authorized brother dealer and repairs all brands of machines. Mid-South Sewing, known for their many fabrics, classes, and individual instructions. Classes on sewing and embroidery machines, software, sergers, and quilting. Mid-South Sewing, Knoxville and Murfreesboro.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttonewknox.com. And by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. knoxvilleflowerpot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Coming up on this edition of Tennessee Life, we celebrate a love for animals and the unique ways they give back to us. Like these goats. Just call them nature's weed eaters.
I never would have thought that I would be raising goats and renting them to eat kudzu.
As we go on the hunt for migrating monarch butterflies, we'll see how these little round stickers placed on delicate wings are helping scientists.
Understanding how a butterfly with this little tiny brain can figure out how to get from Mexico all the way up to southern Canada. How in the world can you code genes to tell an animal where to go? They've never been there before. We don't know.
A farm animal sanctuary makes Tennessee its new home. What do the folks at the Gentle Barn plan to share with locals and visitors alike?
Love and the hope that the animals give them, the people learn kindness, compassion, and confidence, and really find themselves in the barnyard.
These stories next on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us for this animal edition of Tennessee Life. I'm Vicki Lawson. From amazing insects to weed-hungry goats and a steer that has a survivor story, Tennesseans love their animals. We start with how one man is using the eat-anything instinct of goats to provide a green approach to get rid of troublesome weeds. We travel to Whistlepig Farms in Thornhill, where these goats are ready to chow down on their next job.
Well, we wanted more of the kind of a laid-back lifestyle. That's one of the reasons. And it actually turned out not to be so laid back. We started Whistlepig Farms in 2006 with 10 goats. Some of the goats we get attached to because, we've fed them with a bottle or had to nurture them along when they were little, and they get kind of special, and they get special treatment, and they're a lot easier to handle than some. They definitely have personalities. Some of them are pushy. Some of them are standoffish. Some of them are a little crazy. They all have a personality of sorts. Well, I'm Richard Gibbs, owner of Whistlepig Farms in Thornhill, Tennessee. It's a 25-acre goat farm. We raise goats and lease them for clearing invasive plants. A friend of mine that I bought the goats from in North Carolina tried doing this weed eradication on a whim, and it kind of took off for him, and he talked me into trying it, and it's taking off quite well now. Well, it's environmentally friendly, and it has no carbon footprint, very little, if any. Manure that they drop doesn't get back to the water table like herbicides, or will eventually get back to the water table somehow. And it's just an environmentally conscious way to control the invasives. They don't completely eradicate kudzu because it's so hardy, but other species, they kill it out. Timetable is kind of like if it's so thick and heavy you can barely get through it, 10 goats can clear an acre a month. But we very seldom use less than 20 goats on any project. With invasives like kudzu, it kills the native trees. It just chokes them to death. And that's the big reason for getting rid of the kudzu. We're eradicating some natural stuff like brambles and briars, but they come back eventually. But honeysuckle vine and kudzu, it's so prolific, it's hard to get rid of. The process is pretty labor intensive, and it's pretty tough because you never know what's under the kudzu until you start cutting it. But and then we install a portable electric net fencing, and then we load up the amount of goats we're going to take and just put them in on the job. Them and their livestock guardian, they always have a livestock guardian dog with them. The livestock guardian is just a protector of the goats. It doesn't herd the goats. You just look for one that has good dispositions, and all my dogs were born with goats and raised with goats. There's really no training involved, it's just natural instinct. We have about 110 goats at present. 60 of them are in Knoxville eradicating kudzu at the moment. This is the third year we've had them with Tennessee Clean Water Network at Williams Creek.
Oh, they're moving out. Moving out to their next place to lie down. These ladies are hilarious, especially that white one with the curly horns. She's the matriarch. My name is Renee Hoyos. I'm the executive director of the Tennessee Clean Water Network. We purchased these properties through a settlement with the Knoxville Utility Board when we sued them in 2003 for violating the Clean Water Act. And one of the things that these organizations can do is they can offset their civil penalties by doing a supplemental environmental project. And we suggested that they do some property acquisition here in East Knoxville. And we thought we were done with the project. We'd gotten the properties purchased, put them over to the city. The city was happy to get them as a new park. And then a foundation approached us and said, well, what's your plan for phase 2? And, you know, let's see what you've got. And we looked around, we saw, well, there's weeds, and there needs to be a trail, and there needs to be planting. And so we started with the weeds, because you really can't do anything else until you get those under control. And that's when I started looking around for goats. I look at it and I think, oh, it's going to take them weeks. And then, you know, within 2 weeks, I'm amazed at, this is just maybe 2 weeks. And this kudzu was about 8 feet high where I'm standing, all the way to the fence lines here, 8 feet. And for several days, I didn't know where they were, except that I could see the kudzu wiggle. And I knew that they were somewhere in that kudzu bush because I could see it wiggle. And then within, you know, I was surprised every day I'd come here and it looked exponentially better. It's about $5,000 an acre to do a pesticide. The goats were about $6,000 for the summer. So, and this is a 10-acre project. So it is cost effective that way, but it takes longer than pesticides. And what pesticides do is they kill everything. So they're not going to just kill the kudzu, they're going to kill anything beneficial under it. And often if it's not applied well, they'll just sterilize the soil, and then you have runoff issues because the soil is dead and nothing can grow in it to attach. I didn't expect to come out here every day and feed a dog and deal with the goats. And at first I just thought, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And now, you know, I have to Rochambeau with staff to get out here because we used to do it in shifts. And you know, a lot of the staff love to come out here and fool with them and pet the dog. And they come out after, they come out on the weekend and bring their friends and take pictures. And it's a little bit like summer camp.
I think cities and municipalities and individuals are all looking for more environmentally conscious ways rather than just randomly spraying herbicides. I never would have thought that I would be raising goats and renting them to eat kudzu. It makes me feel good that it's helping people be more environmentally conscious.
Later on Tennessee Life, the healing power of animal and human interaction. And next, we go on a butterfly chase to learn more about the science of monarch migration.
Some of the smallest creatures are the source of the greatest scientific wonders. The migration of monarch butterflies remains very much a mystery. We followed a group at Seven Islands State Birding Park as they hunted for monarchs and did the delicate work of tagging.
Tennessee is a wonderful place to study butterflies. We have about 135 species of butterflies here, and places like here at Seven Islands in the Great Smoky Mountains, Cades Cove, are just phenomenal habitats for butterflies. I'm Stacy Whetstone, and I do a lot of volunteer work for the Great Smoky Mountains Institute at Tremont, assisting with their monarch butterfly tagging program. I also participate in the Tennessee Butterfly Monitoring Network, doing butterfly surveys. I became interested in butterflies as I was looking for opportunities for my son for our homeschooling. We learned about the monarch tagging in the Great Smoky Mountains at Tremont, and we just enjoyed it so much. We've done it since then for 8 years now. It was phenomenal to see so many different butterflies, but especially the monarchs, to see so many and be able to give back in a way, be outside, but also submit data to real scientists and help them out. Monarch tagging is basically just going out into the fields and searching for monarch butterflies. Most of the time they are nectaring on the purple thistle. You go with a net and you attempt to catch them, and we will look at them and decide what sex they are and place a tag on them. The tags have a certain series of numbers and letters specific to each butterfly. It has a different one, and then we let them go. There's been a great decline in the population, and we've seen that with each year. The first few years we went, it was just incredible how many we saw, and then each year after that, it was quite depressing to see the decline. A good total for the day of tagging monarchs is about 10 these days. In the beginning, when my son and I first started, he and I would catch 20 to 30 ourselves, and now we're seeing, a good day catching 10 monarchs as a group is a good total.
My name is Steve McGaffin. I'm the Curator of Education at the Knoxville Zoo, and I'm also the Citizen Science Coordinator. And so I'm leading the monarch tagging trip that we do as part of Monarch Watch. It can be a little bit delicate depending on the butterfly that you're working with. They're also a little hardier than you might expect. So if you're careful with them, then you're not likely to hurt them. There's a little technique, and that's one of the advantages of coming out to one of the tagging events. We catch a butterfly. I'll train people on how to remove a butterfly from a net, how to properly net a butterfly, and how to be careful so that you don't harm them. First thing I'm going to do is get them out of the net, and then we're going to tag them, and then we need to determine the gender. So what you want to do is you're going to put the tag right on the end of that cell. See that long cell? Right, it's ending right where my finger is. You're going to put the tag right there.
Now?
And I'm going to put my finger underneath it, so when you put the tag down, you can press down on the top of my finger. There you go. And then just, it's right there. And then just push down. Good. There we go. Well, for monarchs specifically, the concern is that we might lose the migration. We're not worried about losing the species as a whole, but we're worried about the monarch migration may disappear. It's something very unusual. Insects don't usually migrate to that level. Butterflies especially, you don't get the size of migration we get. And so understanding how a butterfly with this little tiny brain can figure out how to get from Mexico all the way up to northern Canada, or up southern Canada, and then all the way back to Mexico. And it's not the same individual. It's over several generations, usually about 5 or 6 generations that it takes for them to make the route. So the monarchs that are flying back down to Mexico have never been there before. How in the world can you code genes to tell an animal where to go? They've never been there before. We don't know. We don't have the answers to that. We have no idea. We have guesses, but we have no real idea of how they actually navigate to know where to go. And so the fear is that we'll lose that migration before we learn the answers to that. Tennessee has the advantage of being on the southern end of a lot of northern species, and on the northern end of a lot of southern species. So we get a nice mixture. We have a number of butterfly species that migrate north up into our area in the summertime. So we get a good diversity of butterflies. The last time I checked, I think we were over 120, possibly 130 species for the state. I think Knox County has about 86 species, if I remember right. And here at Seven Islands, I think we've documented over 60 species.
It just interested me to do what I could to help them. I went home and started planting more flowers, milkweed. Now we rear the caterpillars and tag them whenever they come out of their chrysalis. Immediately after planting milkweed the first year, there was immediate results. As soon as they were tall enough and the butterflies came, there were eggs and caterpillars on our plants. And that was really neat to see, because before I never really noticed monarchs in my yard. And then to just see them more, and then reproducing and breeding and laying their eggs and caterpillars. You just become attached to something. If you spend days and weeks, like I spend months with these monarchs, you know, pretty much from May through October, and you become attached to them. It's amazing watching something grow just like a child. I just think they're phenomenal creatures.
Remember the injured steer that became famous for getting a prosthetic foot at the University of Tennessee? Well, because of Dudley, there is now a new animal sanctuary where he and other animals can bring their healing aspects to visitors. The owners of the California-based Gentle Barn tell us why they wanted a Tennessee location.
Hashtag is Gentle Barn, if I said that right. Put them on Facebook. Put them on Facebook, and you can check in here.
So the Gentle Barn was my dream since I was 7 years old. When I was a kid, I lived where there were woods and lakes, and so that was my playground. I was always mucking in the lakes, playing with the frogs, or playing in the woods with the rabbits. And when I was 7 years old, I started finding animals that needed help. Maybe baby birds that fell out of their nests, or ducks frozen in the lake, or orphan bunnies. And so I started taking them home when I found them needing help. And my little plan was to have a house full of animals that I saved, and they would be my friends. My parents were not amused at all. They did not want a house full of animals. And so they would get rid of the animals. And I would say, "How can you do this to me?" And they'd say, "Ellie, when you grow up, you can have as many animals as you want." So I now have 175 animals. And that was the beginning of the Gentle Barn. The Gentle Barn was founded in California 16 years ago in 1999. We are now home to 175 animals, including horses, cows, pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, turkeys, peacocks, llamas, dogs, cats, donkeys, parrots, and an emu. We do two things. The first of which is we save animals that no one else wants. So those are the animals that we purposely seek out. And we bring them in and we rehabilitate them with vet care and a whole slew of complementary methods. Once the animals are finally healthy and happy, typically we give them sanctuary for the rest of their lives. And then when they're ready, they help us with our second part of our program, which is The animals help us heal children with the same stories of abuse and neglect. So we work with special needs kids, at-risk, inner-city kids, as well as adults, actually. We work with war veterans, senior centers, domestic violence shelters, really anyone that needs hope, anyone that needs unconditional love and some healing. And they come out, and through the interaction with the animals and the stories of the animals and the love and the hope that the animals give them, the people learn kindness, compassion, and confidence, and really find themselves in the barnyard. For the last several years, it's been our goal to have gentle barns in every state in the country, but we weren't quite ready yet until we met Dudley. So we got a call from someone who lived in Tennessee. She called us in California, and she said, I know this sounds crazy because I'm in Tennessee and you're in California, but there's a steer here that needs help, and no one locally has the wherewithal to be able to help him. And I just thought, maybe you can do something. So we did some research and found UT nearby that has one of the leading bovine surgeons in the country. And we did more research and found there were several companies that were willing to give a prosthesis for a cow. So we ended up getting a donation to fly to Tennessee, pick up Dudley in Nashville, drive him to the University of Tennessee, where he was assessed by the surgeon, Dr. Anderson. We were really nervous that maybe Dr. Anderson would say that he wasn't a good candidate or maybe the damage was too far gone. But much to our delight, he said he was a perfect candidate and we were the perfect organization to be able to sustain him after the prosthesis. Finally, the day arrived where Dr. Anderson said it's time to start thinking about him leaving the hospital. We don't have a large university hospital like University of Tennessee, Knoxville, near us in Los Angeles. We have wonderful mobile vets, but we don't have a big supportive hospital, and we really thought that for the rest of Dudley's life, it's in his best interest to be near UT Knoxville. We made the decision to keep him here. And at first we thought, well, do we find another organization to take him? Do we board him at a facility? We were able to find this beautiful location for rent. So we were able to start our second location in Tennessee, and we're very, very excited to be here and to have gone national.
I was one of the kids that we work with today. Animals really healed me growing up, especially horses. I've always been very connected with horses. Being healed by animals, I know what it's like to come in and need that as a child. The joke around here is I'm the volunteer that never left. I really fell in love with the place. I spent a lot of time getting to know the animals and never had a relationship with anything other than a domestic animal, but I ended up having a friendship with a rooster specifically. His name was Mr. Olaf, and every time I came into the gentle barn, this rooster would just come running up to me. And one day he didn't come run up to me, and I went and looked for him, and it was unfortunately his last day. And I had this feeling of sorrow and loss that I had never had before for any other animal other than like maybe a human, like my grandfather passing away or something like that. And I thought to myself, wow, this animal was just like me and you. He was intelligent. He knew who I was. He missed me when I was gone. And I just fell in love with that concept. I didn't want to leave the place because I really wanted to stay connected to that feeling. And so, you know, I ended up joining the board of directors and ended up moving into a relationship with Ellie, and we ended up having this opportunity to run this place together that was just unbelievable for me.
When people come and visit these animals, the very first thing that we do is tell their stories. And immediately people identify with them. They identify with feeling lonely, feeling unwanted, feeling scared, feeling unseen. And through identifying with their stories, they also identify with their recovery. Because these animals, who were like them at one point, have learned to trust and love and find joy and embrace their second chance. And so the animals turn around and heal people, and it's this incredible circle of healing.
Well, my first thought was it was just an animal sanctuary, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, the world needs a lot more animal sanctuaries, especially for farmed animals. But I didn't know that there was so much interaction with troubled youth and troubled adults and high needs individuals, which is just a perfect combination. The world needs a lot more of this kind of thing.
So the future for the Gentle Barn in Tennessee is to be able to connect enough with the community that every morning we're doing school field trips, every afternoon we're doing special needs at-risk and inner-city groups. On Saturdays, we have people all over Tennessee as well as neighboring states come and visit the animals. So hopefully more and more people will hear of us, more people will come and meet the animals, hug them and be inspired, and we'll be able to share a little bit of gentleness here in Tennessee.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about some of the unique purposes animals serve and the research happening in our state. I'm Vicki Lawson. See you on the next Tennessee Life.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing is an authorized brother dealer and repairs all brands of machines. Mid-South Sewing, known for their many fabrics, classes, and individual instructions. Classes on sewing and embroidery machines, software, sergers, and quilting. Mid-South Sewing, Knoxville and Murfreesboro.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by Next to New, an upscale consignment shop serving Knoxville. nexttonewknox.com. And by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. knoxvilleflowerpot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. A DVD of this program is available by visiting easttennesseepbs.org.